In the ancient village of Ezu, where red earth drew lines across bare feet and the songs of distant drums carried through the evening air, there lived a farmer named Ojadili. He was tall, strong, and admired for the way he worked his fields from sunrise to sunset. Many said his arms were blessed by the ancestors, because few men could raise yam mounds as high as his. But his greatest blessing was not his strength. It was his wife, Akwago. Akwago was gentle and full of warmth. She was the kind of woman who smiled with her whole face, a smile that made strangers feel welcome. Children ran to her whenever she walked through the village path, because she always carried small cakes she baked at dawn. Women liked her because she had comforting words. Men respected her because she treated everyone with honesty. Ojadili and Akwago had been married for 7 years, and though they had no children yet, their love seemed strong to all around them. In the early years of the marriage, Ojadili would laugh loudly whenever he returned from the farm, lifting his wife into the air as she giggled. They shared roasted yam by firelight, sitting close, whispering dreams about a future filled with children. But dreams can sour like old palm wine, and love, if not protected, can rot like a neglected yam. It began the year the rains came late. Many farmers lost their crops. The village market became a place of whispered worries, as mothers asked how they would buy food, and fathers wondered how they would pay taxes. But Ojadili, strangely, did not suffer like the others. Somehow, his yams grew even larger, even healthier, even more plentiful. At first, people praised him. "He must be favored by the gods," one woman murmured at the market. "His wife must be praying well for him," another added. But as the season continued, whispers changed tone. Admiration turned into suspicion. Why is his farm the only one giving harvest? Why do his yam leaves shine at night like they are coated in oil? What secret is he hiding? Ojadili heard these rumors, and instead of being troubled by them, he felt powerful. For the first time, he tasted the sharp sweetness of superiority, and it intoxicated him. Something old and dangerous awoke in him, the hunger for more wealth, more respect, more power, more everything. Akwago notices the change. Akwago was the first to sense that her husband was changing, though she could not explain why. He stopped laughing. He stopped touching her with tenderness. He stopped thanking her for the food she cooked. Instead, he grew restless. His words became sharp. He snapped at her over small things: a cup placed in the wrong spot, a broom not resting against the correct wall, a meal served 1 minute later than he expected. One evening, she held his hand as he sat in silence, staring into the fire. "My husband, what troubles you?" she asked. Ojadili did not look at her. He only muttered, "We need to be greater than this." Greater than what? This life, this level, this invisible cage. I want more. Akwago's heart softened. She knelt before him. "You are already blessed. We have land, we have peace, we have each other." Her gentle words should have soothed him. Instead, they irritated him like a thorn under the skin. Ojadili rose suddenly, pushing her aside, and walked out into the night. Akwago sat alone in the firelight, rubbing her arm where she had fallen. For the first time in her marriage, fear touched her heart like a cold hand. A few weeks later, Ojadili began visiting the house of Nadi the diviner, a man with sunken eyes, crooked teeth, and a strange habit of speaking in slow, dragged-out sentences as though he enjoyed hearing his own voice. Nadi had a reputation. Some called him wise, others called him dangerous. He was known for dealing in old magic, the kind that demanded something precious in exchange for power. Ojadili visited him in secret. "What do you seek?" Nadi asked, staring at him from behind a curtain of smoke. "I want the greatest harvest this land has ever seen," Ojadili replied. "I want wealth that will make chiefs bow to me." "That kind of blessing demands a high price," the diviner warned. "I will pay what I must." Nadi smiled a slow, unsettling smile that spread across his narrow face like a crack in glass. "Bring me something precious, something living, something tied to your blood and your destiny." Ojadili did not understand at first, but later, when he returned home and saw Akwago smiling at him as she prepared his meal, he suddenly felt a terrible, poisonous thought bloom in his mind. The diviner's words echoed. Something precious, something living, something tied to your blood. Akwago, his wife, his companion, the woman who loved him with her whole heart, the heart he now considered a commodity. The night it happened, the moon was full, casting a pale blue light over the village. Crickets sang, the wind sighed softly. Nothing in nature warned of the evil about to occur. Akwago had cooked yam porridge, flavored with fresh pepper leaves. She waited for her husband to return from the farm, humming as she prepared his favorite drink. When he finally arrived, she greeted him with warmth. "My husband, welcome." He did not reply. Something felt different about him. His eyes were darker, colder, as though the night had swallowed the kindness inside him. But Akwago, loving, trusting, stepped toward him. "Are you hungry?" She did not finish the sentence. Ojadili struck her. Her head hit the wooden stool. She cried out, shocked. "Ojadili! What is wrong with you?" He did not answer. He moved like a man possessed. Akwago tried to crawl away, tears blurring her vision. "Please, my husband, talk to me." But mercy had left him. Greed had eaten his soul. He ended her life with the same hands he had once used to hold her close. When it was done, he stood over her body, breathing hard, his mind clouded, his heart numb. The terrible act felt unreal, like a distant dream. But the true horror was yet to come. Ojadili carried her body under the cover of night to his most fertile yam mound, the one that always produced twice as much as the others. There, with trembling hands, he cut open her chest and removed her heart still warm. He buried it deep in the soil of the mound and whispered, "Let wealth rise from this." The earth swallowed his crime, but the spirits did not. That night, as he returned home alone, something followed him. A wind colder than harmattan brushed the back of his neck. A faint voice, familiar yet distant, whispered his name. "Ojadili." He spun around, trembling. But there was nothing. When he reached his house, he found the fire flickering strangely, though no one was there to tend it. Shadows stretched across the walls like long fingers. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Akwago's face, not loving, not warm, but pale and accusing. At midnight, he heard it clearly. Footsteps, slow, dragging, familiar. They stopped outside the door. Ojadili froze. His breath caught in his throat, then knock, knock, knock. 3 soft, deliberate knocks. "Who is there?" he whispered. Silence. He rose from his mat, heart pounding. He reached the door with trembling hands and pulled it open. No one, nothing, only the wind. But just as he turned to go back inside, a shadow moved behind him. He felt a cold hand brush the back of his neck, and a voice unmistakable whispered in his ear, "You planted my heart." Ojadili screamed. The night swallowed the sound. The night after the knocking began, Ojadili sat trembling in the center of his hut, clutching a burning torch to his chest like a frightened child. His eyes were swollen from lack of sleep. His breath came in short, uneven gasps. Every creak in the wooden walls made him jump. Every shift of wind made him flinch. Outside, the moon hung still and watchful, glowing with a pale, eerie light that danced across the ground like ghostly fingers. The village was quiet, too quiet. Even the night insects kept silent, as though nature itself sensed that something unnatural had returned to walk among the living. Ojadili had murdered his wife. He had buried her heart beneath his most treasured yam mound. He had whispered greed into the soil. He had expected wealth. He had expected harvest. He had expected glory. But instead, she came back. And she came back incomplete. The next evening, when the sun sank behind the line of distant hills, Ojadili walked to the farm with trembling legs, hoping to distract himself with work. The yam leaves swayed gently, innocent and green, hiding the dark secret beneath their roots. He knelt beside the mound that held Aqualgo's heart. For a moment, the farm was silent. Then the leaves rustled, softly, slowly, as though touched by invisible hands. Ojadili stepped back. The earth beneath the mound shifted just a little, barely noticeable, but enough to make the air grow cold around him. Then he heard it, a whisper, a familiar voice that drifted through the leaves like smoke. "My husband!" Ojadili staggered backward, tripping over a broken stem. His heart thumped wildly against his ribs. Sweat poured down his back, even though the evening air was cool. He looked around. There was no one, only the wind sliding between the yam leaves. But the whisper came again, clearer, sadder, heavier. "My husband, you buried my heart." Ojadili dropped his hoe and ran. He did not look behind him. He did not breathe. He did not think. He simply fled, crashing through the bushes and stumbling over stones until he reached the safety of his compound. He slammed the door shut. He barred the windows. He rushed to the fire and fed it until the flames rose high. But no flame could remove the image now burning inside his mind. That yam mound moving like something beneath it was trying to rise. The next morning, Ojadili walked through Ezu with shaking hands and swollen eyes. He had barely slept. Shadows clung beneath his eyelids. His skin looked pale, stretched thin over sharp bones. People noticed. They always noticed. Elder women who sat along the roadside, weaving baskets, whispered behind their palms. Something is troubling him. He looks like he has seen the spirit world. Maybe the gods are warning him. Young men carrying firewood paused to observe him with frowns. "He used to walk like a lion," one said quietly. "Now he moves like a bird, afraid of its own shadow." Market women spoke while arranging their goods. "His harvest is too big this year. Maybe he used medicine. Maybe he did something forbidden." Gossip spread like wildfire, fast and hungry. Aqualgo's absence added fuel to the flames. She had not been seen for several days. At first, people thought she had traveled. Then they wondered if she was sick. When Ojadili offered no explanation, the question became sharper. Where is your wife? When will she return? Why is your home so quiet? Ojadili avoided them all. He kept his head down. He muttered excuses. He refused to meet their eyes. But fear has a smell sharp, sour, unmistakable. And the villagers smelled it on him. That night, the first true haunting began. It started with footsteps, soft, slow, dragging across the dry earth outside his hut. Ojadili froze where he sat. The footsteps stopped at his door. He tried to speak, but his throat closed. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. Then came breathing. Low, faint, right outside the wooden door. Ojadili covered his ears, but the sound somehow reached inside his head, filling him with cold dread. He whispered to himself, "It is the wind, only the wind." But the wind does not breathe, and the wind does not speak. A voice floated through the door. Ojadili. It was Akwaugo's voice, soft, gentle, broken. "My husband, open the door." Ojadili pressed his back against the wall, torch shaking in his hand, sweat dripping down his face. "No, go away! Why did you plant my heart?" The voice was no longer soft, no longer gentle. It was raw, sharp, heavy with pain. "Why did you cut me? Why did my blood touch your hands? Why did you bury me alone in the cold earth?" Ojadili covered his ears again, but her voice filled the room as though the walls were speaking. Then the door creaked. Very slowly, very softly, the wooden frame bent, moaning. The shadows stretched. The torchlight flickered. Ojadili screamed and rushed forward, slamming the door shut with all his strength. Silence fell immediately. He waited. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Then something scraped across the wall outside. Slowly, deliberately. The sound of fingernails dragging across wood. Ojadili trembled, pressing his back to the door, tears running down his cheeks. The scratching stopped, and out of the silence, Akwaugo's voice whispered again, "I am cold, my husband." Ojadili fell to the floor, shaking until his muscles went numb. The voice faded, the footsteps drifted away, but sleep refused to come. Fear stayed curled inside him like a dark animal. The next morning, children ran into the village, screaming and crying. Their eyes were wide with terror. Their small bodies shook as their parents gathered around them. "What happened? What did you see?" "Speak, child." One young girl pointed toward the forest path, tears running down her cheeks. "There is a woman standing there." "What woman?" "She has no heart." Silence fell. Villagers turned to one another with dread creeping across their faces. Another child spoke. "I saw her too. Her chest is empty." A mother gasped. "Empty?" The boy nodded violently. "Yes, like someone dug inside her." Fear rippled through the crowd. Some whispered prayers, others clutched charms. A few glanced quickly at Ojadili's compound. Rumors grew like vines. Could it be Akwaugo? Has she died? Did something happen? What secret is Ojadili hiding? At that moment, Ojadili emerged from his hut, attempting to appear calm, though sweat clung to his forehead and his hands twitched. When the children saw him, they pointed. "That is her husband. He should go and look." She was calling someone. Maybe she was calling him. The villagers, turned to him. "Ojadili," the chief's messenger said, stepping forward. "Children have reported seeing a heartless woman on the forest path. Since Akwago has been missing, you must go with us." Ojadili swallowed hard. His voice cracked. I cannot go." The villagers exchanged troubled glances. "Why not? What are you afraid of? Is there something you want to tell us?" "No," Ojadili said quickly, too quickly. "I am only tired." But his trembling voice betrayed him. His shaking hands betrayed him. His sleepless eyes betrayed him. The villagers pressed closer. "Where is Akwago? When did you last see her? Why does your yam farm shine at night? What have you done?" Ojadili backed away, panic rising in his chest like boiling water. But before anyone could push further, a sudden scream tore through the village. Women turned, men ran forward, children clung to their mothers. Standing at the edge of the path, covered in dust, wearing the same cloth she had worn before her death, stood Akwago. Her body was pale, her hair hung in tangled strands. Her chest had a hollow, dark, gaping space where her heart had once rested. She did not speak. She did not blink. She only stared straight at Ojadili with eyes full of sorrow. The villagers fell to their knees, trembling. Some screamed, some prayed, some fled. Ojadili felt the earth tilt beneath him. His knees weakened, his breath vanished. Akwago lifted one hand and pointed at him. Only him. The villagers turned slowly to look at Ojadili. His fear was no longer a secret, and Akwago's silent accusation burned through the air like lightning. Without warning, Akwago opened her mouth and released a sound that made even the strongest warriors cover their ears. It was not a scream, it was not a cry, it was something broken, something ancient, something filled with pain and betrayal and the weight of a heart that had been stolen. When the sound faded, she whispered, "He planted my heart for wealth." Gasps exploded from every direction. Women covered their mouths in horror. Men stepped back, stunned. Elders exchanged dark, knowing looks. Children clung desperately to their parents. Ojadili shook his head violently. "No, no, it is a lie. You are not her. You are a spirit, a demon, a trick." But Akwago raised her hand, and the earth beneath Ojadili's feet trembled. The yam leaves behind her shook violently, as though buffeted by a storm that only they could feel. Ojadili collapsed to the ground, weeping, unable to escape the weight of her gaze. "My husband," Akwago whispered, "your greed killed me." The village grew silent. Even the wind stopped moving, as though the world itself waited for what would happen next. Akwago lowered her hand and vanished like smoke blown away by a sudden wind. After Akwago vanished like mist, the villagers of Ezu stood rooted to the spot, unable to breathe, unable to speak, unable to understand the horror they had witnessed. Some wrapped their arms tightly around their bodies, trembling. Others whispered prayers under their breath. Children cried into their mother's cloth, but all eyes eventually turned toward Ojadili. He still knelt on the dusty ground, shaking violently, his tears mixing with the earth. He looked like a broken man, empty, frightened, exposed. The confident farmer, who once walked with pride, had become a trembling shadow of himself. A heavy silence settled over the village like an invisible cloak. Finally, the eldest man in the village, Elder Obiez, stepped forward. His voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of authority. "Stand up, Ojadili." Ojadili shook his head, unable to lift his face. "Please, please let me go. I did nothing." But his lies had lost their strength. They sounded weak, thin, and hollow. The villagers murmured, "Why is he lying?" The spirit pointed at him. She spoke his name. She said he planted her heart. What kind of man kills his wife for wealth? Ojadili pressed his palms against his ears, trying to block out the voices. But guilt echoed louder inside his skull. "Planted my heart, planted my heart, planted my heart." The words pounded like drums, refusing to fade. Elder Obiez looked at him with narrowed eyes, simple, direct, unshakable. "Ojadili, where is your wife's body?" At that moment, something inside Ojadili's mind cracked like a clay pot struck too many times. He opened his mouth to speak, but only a broken whisper came out. I can't explain." But before he could say anything more, another scream echoed across the village. Except this time, it was not a child screaming. It was the earth. The ground trembled violently, sending dust rising into the air. Women stumbled and grabbed their children. Men backed away in shock. Goats bleated and fled. Chickens scattered wildly. Elder Obiez steadied himself with his staff, eyes wide. "It is the yam fields," someone shouted. "Yes, the yam farm. The earth is shaking from there." The villagers turned in unison toward Ojadili's farm. The trembling grew stronger, pulsing through the ground in waves. Ojadili's heart dropped into his stomach. He knew what it meant. He knew she was awakening. He knew the earth had begun to reject the heart buried in its belly. Akwago was not done. Her spirit wanted justice. Her spirit wanted truth. Her spirit wanted revenge, driven by fear, curiosity, and a desperate need for answers. The villagers began moving toward the yam farm. Some walked slowly, terrified of what they might find. Others hurried, hoping to catch the spirit again. A few clutched charms tightly against their chests. Elder Obiez led them. Behind him came hunters, warriors, mothers, children, farmers, and the chief's messenger. The entire village moved together like a single nervous animal. Ojadili was dragged along weak, shaking, barely able to stand. 2 men held him upright so he would not collapse. His legs felt heavy, as though carrying stones. His lips trembled, sweat poured from his skin. Every step closer to the farm felt like walking into a grave. When they finally reached the first row of yam mounds, they stopped. A cold wind blew through the leaves. Although the sun was bright, the air around the farm felt wrong, heavy, thick, too still. The ground trembled again. Then another sound began. Thump, thump, thump. A slow, steady heartbeat, but it did not come from a human chest. It came from the earth. The villagers gasped. "Is the farm breathing? Is that a heart?" "It is coming from under the soil." The heartbeat grew louder. Thump, thump, thump. Louder, faster, and then the mound holding Akwago's heart swelled upward, heaving like something alive fought to rise from beneath. The villagers froze. The yam mound ripped open, not slowly but violently, with a sudden burst of soil that sprayed into the air like dark water. Some people screamed. Others ran backward. A few fell to the ground in shock. From the broken mound, roots twisted upward, long, pale, tangled like veins. They writhed like living snakes reaching into the air. Then the earth around the mound cracked further, and a voice rose from beneath the soil. A woman's voice, cold, echoing, filled with sorrow and fury. "My heart is here," the ground groaned, "and my pain is here." Roots snapped, soil shifted, and my blood creased for justice. The earth split wide open, and something began to emerge. Not a complete body, not a full form, a shadow, a shimmering, ghostly shape rising slowly from the soil, like mist escaping from a pot. It was a Kwago spirit, only now she looked different from earlier. This was not the quiet figure that had stood on the path. This spirit was stronger, more present, more awake. Her face was pale, yet beautiful. Her eyes glowed faintly. Her chest still bore the hollow space where her heart used to beat. Women fell to their knees. Men bowed their heads. Even warriors trembled. A Kwago floated above the broken mound, staring directly at Ojadili. Her voice carried over the farm like wind through dead leaves. "My husband, you planted my heart in greed." Ojadili collapsed to the ground, sobbing. I am sorry, please. I was blinded." But Akwago shook her head slowly, sadness etching itself deeply into her expression. "You took my life for harvest." The villagers turned to Ojadili, shocked, horrified, disgusted. Some spat at the ground, others covered their mouths. Mothers hugged their children tightly, shielding their eyes. Elder Obiez stepped forward, voice trembling with shock and sorrow. "Ojadili, is this true?" Ojadili pressed his forehead to the dirt, wailing, Yes, I killed her. I killed her for wealth. I planted her heart to make my farm stronger. Please forgive me. Please help me." The villagers erupted in cries of disbelief. "How could you? She loved you. She prayed for you. She cooked for you. She stood by you." But Ojadili only cried harder, beating his chest as though pain could cleanse guilt. Akwago's spirit descended closer to him. Her voice softened, but it did not lose its strength. "You stole my life, Ojadili. You took my breath, my warmth, my hope. But the earth remembers blood, and the dead do not sleep when their hearts are planted in greed." Ojadili screamed and covered his head. "Forgive me. Please forgive me." Akwago's spirit shook her head. "Forgiveness is not mine to give. You must answer to the ancestors." Without warning, the sky darkened. Birds scattered. Wind howled. Clouds swirled violently overhead. The villagers fell to their knees in terror. A column of light descended on the broken yam mound. The air filled with the beating of unseen drums. The ground shook harder than before. Then a deep, ancient voice echoed across the farm. Not a Kwago's voice, not a human voice, but the voice of the ancestors themselves. "Ojadili, your hands are stained with innocent blood." Ojadili screamed. "Mercy, mercy, please," the voice continued. "You killed the one who loved you. You spilled blood on sacred soil. You fed the earth with a stolen heart. For this, you shall harvest your own fate." The wind roared like a living beast. Thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning flashed, illuminating Akwago's spirit. She raised her hand. The yam stalks behind her writhed like snakes. Roots burst from the ground. Leaves spread wide, glowing with unnatural light. Ojadili tried to run. He struggled to stand, but the earth beneath him softened suddenly, like wet clay. His feet sank. He screamed. The earth pulled harder. His legs sank deeper. Soil grabbed him like invisible hands. "No, no, help me, please," he cried. But no one moved. Even if they wanted to help him, they could not. This was not a matter of human power. The villagers watched with horror and helplessness as the earth swallowed Ojadili slowly, up to his knees, up to his waist, up to his chest. He reached toward Akwago's spirit with shaking hands. "Akwago, please, save me." She looked at him with eyes full of sorrow, not for him, but for the love she had wasted on him. "You chose greed over love," she whispered. The earth pulled him down further. Ojadili's screams turned to choking gasps. Then the ancestor's voice thundered again. "As you buried her heart, so shall the earth bury you." With one final cry, Ojadili vanished beneath the soil. Silence fell. The spirit's farewell, Akwago's spirit, hovered above the ground for a long moment. Women wept softly. Men bowed their heads. Children clung to their mothers. Finally, she turned to the villagers. "Let my story remain a warning," she said, her voice calm and clear. "Greed destroys love. Greed kills peace. Greed steals the heart of a home." Then she looked at Elder Obiez. "Protect this village. Guard your hearts. Teach your sons to love, not to hunger for what is not theirs." Her form grew lighter, transparent, soft. She began to rise. "My spirit can rest now," she whispered. And with one last breath of wind, Akwago faded into the sky, leaving behind only silence and the broken mound where her heart had once been buried. A year after Akwago's spirit found peace, the elders decided to create a festival in her honor. A festival to teach future generations the danger of greed and the power of love. Every year, on the day of her death, the villagers gathered in the square. They carried white cloth, symbolic of her pure heart. They poured water on the earth, asking it to remain kind. They sang songs of love, not sorrow. The festival became known as the Day of the Cleansing Heart. Young men listened to warnings against violence and greed. Young women heard songs about courage and justice. Couples renewed their promises to protect each other. The festival healed what had been broken. It kept Akwago's memory alive. It turned tragedy into wisdom. It turned pain into purpose. Generations, later years passed. Then decades. Then generations. The cursed yam field became a quiet, open space where no one dared to farm. Grass grew there, but nothing edible. Children played far from it. Elders pointed at it during storytelling nights. "That is where greed killed love," they said. Akwago became a symbol in Ezu, a symbol of strength, a symbol of justice, a symbol of the heart's power. Her name lived on, her story lived on, her warning lived on, and deep beneath the cracked soil of the abandoned field, the earth still held the memory of a woman whose heart had been stolen for wealth, and whose spirit taught the village that nothing planted in greed can ever truly grow. Moral lesson: greed leads to destruction, and no amount of wealth is worth betraying love. Every evil act returns to its owner, but love, truth, and justice always rise in the end.